I'm joined now by Yowa Akbera, I believe, from our Abuja studios to help us dissect some of these issues. Good day. How are you doing, sir?
Thank you, Ebuka. Thank you for having me.
Yes, so like I said, a lot of people are still very confused as to the implementation of this conditional cash transfer. Just as quickly as you can, explain to us how this works, who's benefiting from it, and who is eligible to benefit from this.
Okay, those who are benefiting from the cash transfer are the poor and vulnerable that have been identified by their communities. They are taken out of mind from a social register that is owned and developed by the state and the state governments, domiciled at the Ministry of Planning for each of the states, that work with their local government teams to develop the social register. And the local government teams meet with community members and community leaders and set the community together. After due sensitization, the community then identifies those who are poor and vulnerable amongst them. They are then registered into this social register, but of course, only after the community have identified them, the communities who will sign off on the list of identified poor and vulnerable. This identified poor and vulnerable list that has been signed off by the community, a list will be left with them at the community level, and then another list to be taken by our colleagues at the local government level, who will go back and register these poor and vulnerable people that have been identified by their communities. Now, these people come into the social register. At the moment, the social register is in all 36 states of the Federation and Abuja, with a total of 3.3 million poor and vulnerable households made up of 13.8 million individuals. Now, the cash transfer program then mines from this social register. The cash transfer program on its own, it's also managed at the state level. In every state, there is a state cash transfer office that has been established under the state government. And then what they do is to mine from the social register, and they go back to these communities and then register the people into the cash transfer program. Now, for the benefit of all of us, for Nigeria, not everyone in the social register is entitled to cash transfer. Only the poor of the poorest. So within the cash transfer itself, there are certain parameters that are applied to then categorize these poor and vulnerable households from the poor to the poorest. Now, the cash transfer pay the poor of the poorest from this social register. And with these numbers, for now, the government of the 3.3 million, we are paying 1 million, and we are still enrolling others as we speak. So it's a daily thing that gets updated, and we are hoping that in the May-June payment round that we're preparing for, we will be able to up the numbers from 1 million and heading towards 2 million. Now, this is the cash transfer, and those are those who are able to access this cash transfer.
Now, I mean, we live in a country where we know that there's been stories confirmed on so many levels in the past with regards to things as annoying as ghost workers in the civil service. And that is a place that's supposed to have some structure. So you can understand Nigerians being skeptical about a list of poor people, especially not understanding when it was compiled and who's on this list and how things are even verified. How do you work with the state government to ensure that these lists are properly verified? And then secondly, I think most importantly, you are doing a cash transfer to about 1 million Nigerians. I mean, it's good enough that you're doing something at least. But for a country that's, whether we like it or not, the poverty capital of the world, the statistics of the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics of our country released just a month ago showed that over 80 million Nigerians live below the poverty line. So that's literally just a drop in the ocean, isn't it?
You see, tackling poverty is multidimensional. You want to look at the entire human capital development index. You want to look at health and health infrastructure. You look at agriculture. You look at education and education infrastructure, and you look at jobs and creation of jobs. You look at small-scale businesses. All of this come together. Cash transfer in itself will not be cover for all. But in itself, it's a very strategic investment by government that will stimulate demand. And by stimulating demand in our communities, it will then drive in the long run production and production activities. We all know that once demand is high, supply has to meet it. And to meet supply, you've got to increase production. And by increasing production down the line, you are encouraging businesses to flourish. And by businesses flourishing, we also mean employing more people. So by that move, you are also able to tackle some of the other problems, including employment. Now, for every 1 naira you give a poor and vulnerable person out there in form of cash transfer, evidence show that there is a 1 naira 30 kobo return on that investment, which goes to say that there is a multiplier effect in investing in cash transfer. But that is not really the argument from your point of view or your question. The data released by Bureau of Statistics put absolute poverty value at 40%. 40% translates to like 80-something million people. That is it. Then how is government systematically tackling this? The cash transfer is just one out of the many strategies that the government is trying to put in place to effectively tackle the question of poverty. But it has to all come together. So the other day we had the vice president on the move to create more jobs, to create about 1,000 jobs in every local government. You had stories just 2 or 3 days ago, the vice president came up to say on the small-scale industries and small-scale businesses and opening up. So all of this will have a way to converge in alleviating poverty. But for the immediate, the cash transfer have been existing since 2016. That the cash transfer office was established along with the office that I oversee, which is the National Social Safety Net Coordinating Office, NASCO, to begin to systematically put in place some of the structures that will help define who the poor and vulnerable are, where they are, what they are. And we all recall in Mr. President's democracy speech last year, he did say, now we have a list of poor and vulnerable. We know them, we know who they are, and where they reside. This is what the social register is. He was talking about the social register. But it is a continuous process. It is a process that it's ongoing. We just started the social register in itself as a national social register. It's around 2.5 years old as it is now when we began to put it together as a national social register. Yet we are 3.3 million. And we are developing the register every day. So as we speak, the teams on tomorrow again, because today is weekend, tomorrow the teams, the various state teams and their local government counterparts are still in the field collecting data, collecting information of these poor and vulnerable and registering them onto the field. You'll recall that 2 weeks ago when Mr. President made announcement, he did say the social register was 2.6 million. Today it is 3.3 million and still counting. So it's growing by the day. And so hopefully in no distant future we'll be hitting our numbers. Global best practices and global experience will tell us that it takes a while to develop a social register of poor and vulnerable. And there are a lot of targeting mechanisms to do this. For Nigeria, we adopt the community-based targeting system, wherein the community decide who are poor and vulnerable. So it's a growing concern. We know it's a hard hit, and government is doing all within its power to see that help comes to everyone.
Something I want to find out about, we find that a lot of states have also complained, right? There was a lot of complaints from state governments. Yes, I know that not every state is equally poor. Some states, of course, are doing better than others. But some states were also more affected with the lockdown than others. While some states were on lockdown, other states were receiving the conditional cash transfer even when they were not locked down. What was the criteria used in choosing who benefits from this at a time like this when we're in peculiar times? And are these complaints about states even valid?
Okay, so the cash transfer itself wasn't really a palliative. You won't say it is not at the advent of the pandemic that the government decided to do a cash transfer program, even though that is part of a COVID-19 intervention that government is thinking of. But the cash transfer that was being paid or is still being paid now has been in existence since 2016. And We have been moving into states as states get set and state gets their structures in place. So we know we operate a federation. So for the social register to be built in any state, the state government enters a memorandum of understanding with us, and that memorandum of understanding puts some responsibility on the state. For instance, to establish an office in the Office of Planning, to deploy civil servants who are qualified to man those positions, and also to provide minimal office furnishing and all of that. Some states were quite proactive in doing this and were on board very early.
Very sorry to cut you there. Sorry to cut you. Sorry to cut you there. Sorry, because I'm asking this because I understand that you've been working since 2016, but we're talking about this now in the context of the fact that we are in very peculiar times. What has the cash transfer done to help Nigerians in the pandemic? Or is it not relevant in this time to ask that question?
Very relevant, and I agree with you, Hardly, very relevant. And the cash transfer in itself is being paid to all the states that are on the program, regardless of lockdown or not. So during the lockdown, the cash transfer was flagged by the Honorable Minister Sadia Omar Farouk of the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, whom we work under in Kwali. So Kwali was actually locked down, but the cash transfer was paid there. And also in Kano, cash transfer was ongoing in Kano, and all the other states that are now on the cash transfer. Lagos, Ogun, and the other states as well, we come up this next payment round that we're preparing to start paying.
So, there's a saying that I know you believe in: whatever is worth doing is worth doing well. We know that the federal government is paying, I think, 5,000 naira a month for the next 4 months to families in this time. You've talked about the fact that just about 1 million families are getting this out of over 80 million who need it. Even the bigger picture, out of 200 million Nigerians who are affected by this, whether we like it or not. Would you say you are doing this well? And is it worth it?
I would say it's worth it because evidence abounds on how impactful cash transfer program is, even here in Nigeria, the one that we're working with. We have a number of success stories where lives have been changed. We have a lot of success stories where people have started just with this 5,000 naira and have invested in little businesses, and now they are taking care of their families regardless of whether it is paid or not. So it is really successful as a program. Evidence abound everywhere. But now, are we doing enough? Yes, we will do a lot more, and there is a room for doing much more. And the federal government, under the leadership of the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, and the Minister Sadia Omar Farouk, has been very clear on this direction by putting very clearly some of the systems and some of the interventions that will reach millions of Nigerians. Cash transfer is one of them, but the homegrown school feeding program has quite quickly been readjusted into dry food rations, and 3.1 million families are targeted to receive those dry food rations that started this week in Abuja, and we extend to Lagos, Ogun, and Kano for the immediate, and to the other states. So all of these measures are measures to reach poor Nigerians. The government, the president also announced the moratorium for those who were already on market money and other small-term loans under the GIP program for 3-4 months. These are all aimed to supporting Nigerians and helping Nigerians in this time of pandemic. Of course, more is being planned, more is being worked out. The structures and logistics are just being worked out to start developing the rapid response register that will be targeting the urban poor. These are people who have been made vulnerable, who are vulnerable or made poor out of the result of the pandemic, wherein they are not able to go back to their daily jobs, daily businesses, to earn their daily income that they earn either through bricklaying, supporting on construction sites, daily transport, or selling by the roadside. Now, these people are vulnerable vulnerable, and they are not only vulnerable now, they are made poor, if we want to use that word. But the federal government is working on it. So they want to get these people onto this rapid response register, and then they immediately find support for them as they need it.
So, I mean, like I said, I mean, we all know what's going on in the world. This is not something that's peculiar to Nigeria. Even some of the greatest capitalist countries in the world have turned to social welfare to help their citizens. So Nigeria is not in a different situation here. I guess my question is, with regards to what you're doing and looking at the bigger picture, it might not necessarily be a social welfare question for you, but what is going to happen going forward for the Nigerian economy? Because, like I said, a lot of people are out of work. A lot of people are going to be out of business. Most businesses are not going to come back after this. And you work in the social welfare sort of space in government. Are there any plans for entrepreneurs who would need support after this? How do they access these funds even? Does the government even have the funds for people to access?
Thank you very much, and it's good that you say this might not really be a question for me, so I'm very happy answering this question as a Nigerian. I would say yes. Yes, that's why the president was very proactive in establishing the Economic Recovery Committee, headed by the vice president. This committee has been working, and we've seen some of their briefings every now and then on TV, and the vice president has come out to clearly tell Nigerians where we need to go. We need to open up our economy. We need to invest more in small-scale businesses. We need to create jobs. And by that, the various ministries have been given very clear mandates. And I'll talk about the ministry where I work, the humanitarian affairs ministry. The minister has also been.
We can't go into details now, unfortunately.
All of us, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, we can't go into all the details of the ministries, but I mean, I think I get the picture you're trying to paint there. Thank you very much, and continue to do the great thing you do. Please make sure you're doing it well, because a lot of Nigerians need your support and the support of government. Thanks for joining us today.